Should be good.
Oh,
How about that?
perfect.
All right.
Hi, team.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing tonight?
I feel like we need to like that light.
Yeah, we're sitting in a really bad spot. There we go. All right, move that way.
This way? That's probably better for you, yeah. Oh, perfect. Much better. Awesome.
Hi there. Thank you guys for joining us tonight for our snook fishing webinar. I'm Mike Readling. This is our special guest, Christina Weber. Just to talk to you a little bit about ourselves real quick, and that'll be the last we talk about ourselves for the rest of the night.
False.
I was born and raised in Jupiter. I grew up fishing down there, fishing the inlet and fishing the Loxahatchee River, fishing all up and down the intercoastal, the gingerbread house for all the people from around here that are familiar with that. I've lived in Tampa and Key West and fished all those spots. I used to guide around here in Stewart, where we are now. And I'm here today because I'm a Navionics Marine Specialist for Florida, which means I travel around and talk to a lot of people and try out some different fishing techniques and see what's going on. Christina here, also born in Palm Beach County, has been fishing her entire life, which is a lot shorter than my entire life.
Yes.
Each year she hosted Children's Holiday Fishing Classic in Wellington. She was the 2015 Kayak Angler of the Year. And she fishes kayak tournaments all over the world, technically.
Technically.
She's fresh off the water. She was guiding a trip today.
I did.
Where were you today?
I was bass fishing. We went to Lake Garcia. It was a lot of fun.
So she is sunburned and tired, but ready to talk to you guys a little bit about snook fishing.
Started bright and early, 5 a.m.
Just to kind of let you guys know where we're at, we're going to talk, because Christina's here, we want to talk a little bit about how to set up a kayak for fishing. A lot of what she talks about, I think, is going to also go into how you want to set up a boat. So for all of you boat and shore and bridge anglers, I'm here for you. We're not going to be all plastic Navy for the whole day. We'll talk a little bit about picking the right spot when we're looking for snook, how to rig your rods and reels and line, leaders, hooks, the different kinds of baits. We'll have a good arm wrestling match over live versus artificial. One of the important things when you're fishing is how to position your boat the right way, you know, how to get it to where you're not on top of the fish, you're not spooking the fish, but you're still close enough to where you can cast to them. That's going to be a little different for us, but that's why she's here today. And then very important for me as the chairman of the Snook Foundation is how to handle those fish once you get them to the boat or to the kayak. You know, you don't want to just be grabbing them and throw them around and doing Greg Louganis dives back into the water. There's proper ways to handle all the fish, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to take a little trip to Central America and put it all together for you. And then we'll do a couple drawings for a Navionics hat, which has all the names of the people, and
a Night Eyes headlamp.
Very good.
Pretty fancy.
So the first thing we want to talk about is we'll talk about setting up your kayak, and we'll apply that to a boat as well. So Christina's going to talk a little bit about how to. That's what I'm looking for right now. So if you guys have any questions, you can type them into the box, and we will answer them. We'll try to answer them as we go along. If not, we'll answer them at the end when we get to the end.
Yes, we're going to try to figure out where those are because I don't see them currently. But
go ahead. Talk about setting up the kayak, and we'll go.
So setting up your kayak is kind of fun. It's like a MacGyver sport almost. Now we have a ton of different tools, a ton of different accessories, all sorts of cool things that you can put on your kayak. I like to keep things simple. I don't which may seem crazy to some people, but I do like to keep things simple. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just there to go fishing, and it's not about having the jazziest stuff or the jazziest kayak, but really about being able to be productive on the water. And in a kayak, that can be very difficult. So I like accessories that are low profile, and they get the job done. I use a lot of Rail Blazer mounts. They are very low profile. They have it basically is like one universal starport mount, and they have all these accessories that go into it. So no matter where on my kayak, I can plug and play almost all these different things, which is really, really cool because I don't know what I'm doing today. Sometimes I'm offshore. Sometimes I'm in Panama. Sometimes I'm in the Bahamas. Sometimes I'm on Kentucky Lake. I have no idea. So being able to have a mount that caters to all of the limitlessness of my being is really, really cool. So that's important. I would highly suggest accessorizing with any sort of Rail Blazer mounts. And having a GPS is really cool. I do use a Raymarine Dragonfly. And having your crate, whatever crate that may be. You don't have to have the fanciest crate. You don't have to have, listen, this is my favorite crate. I bought this crate 6 years ago and put my rod holders on it, which is crazy.
Is that just
6 years ago, just a milk crate. I bought it at like Home Depot and put like a $10 3-mount rods on it. There's nothing crazy about it. I don't currently use it. I'm using a Hobie H crate. But I do love my blue crate, and I still have it, and I still give it to like clients to use. It's perfect. It's big. As you can see in this photo, you can fit a 5-gallon bucket in it, and I have all sorts of other things going on in there. There's not very many. I mean, sometimes simple is more, and it's nice to have options. So you don't have to overdo it. Get as crazy as you want, but you can still keep it simple. If you have a Hobie, there's like a handful of accessories that I always would suggest to people. Getting the sailing rudder, the turbo fins, and wheels. Those are key. If you can get those few accessories, you're going to be solid. Another thing you'll notice in this photo is can I zoom?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like right here, there's S-beaners. You can see them hanging on my seat there. Those are Night Eyes S-beaners. Those are actually a locking S-beaner, so which is really cool because in the kayak, things are constantly moving. You never know when you're going to flip, and you just don't ever know. So it's nice to know that you have this S-beaner that not only is locking, so you can lock all sorts of like tools, like your pliers, your cutters, a flashlight, whatever you have, whatever you use, you can lock it, and no matter what happens, it's always going to be there, and it's easily to remove. It's easy to switch to another side, pass to your buddy, whatever you need to do. But I think that's the most important thing. Your crates, your basic tools, rod extenders, GPS, little things.
Now the thing right off the front of your foot there, what is that?
That's a Rail Blazer mount, actually. That's to hold my VHF radio. So that mount, I have starport mounts on all 4 corners of my kayak. And I can basically, I don't need my VHF radio all the time, but in this specific photo, I was fishing the Extreme Bahamas tournament, and we need our radio. We're trying to communicate with other boats, but for safety purposes. And so I don't need it all the time. So it's nice to know I can just pluck that out. And it's still, that starport mount is still very low profile. So no matter what type of fishing I'm doing, whether I'm skipping mangroves for snook, that my line never gets hung up on it. And that's pretty important because who likes that?
So I think what's important for those of us that would prefer 250 horsepower over 2 foot power is the GPS on this boat, the Raymarine Dragonfly, the VHF, and then all the rods. She just has them compressed into about a 3-foot space, whereas we have them over, 22 or 25 foot, just to have a little more comfort for us.
Yeah, kayak fishing is definitely forces you to simplify things and capitalize on underthinking almost. you know, fishing is fishing at the end of the day. And I feel like I can say that because I travel all over and my mindset's always the same. So it's the same tools. This is the coolest thing about kayak fishing is that it's the one boat that I can do everything in. I just don't know. Show me another boat that can do that. There isn't.
Well, I'm the king of underthinking, so we have that figured out. All right, so we're all rigged. We have our kayak rigged. We have our boat rigged. Our rods on the boats. We have our 50-gallon cooler so that we can have our Gatorades and Pepsis during our fishing trip.
A lot of jazz.
So, so now, what do we do now? Where do we want to start? I picked this area because this is the Jupiter Inlet where, again, Christina and I both grew up fishing.
Yep.
We know it pretty well, but we wanted to be able to show you. This is a good inlet. It's a good example. It's got a lot of different tidal currents and just different aspects that I think we can talk about a little bit. So, Christina, if you were to look at this photo right here, what would be on, and we'll say here, I'll draw a little arrow for you so we can all remember. Maybe.
Where's our arrow?
I don't know where my arrow go. There we go. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I'll show you. So the tide's coming in. And I did this just so I could have an arrow. So it's coming in and it's going around that corner and it's going up the river.
Perfect. Wow, that's really good. Very
Questions are
accurate.
up there.
Oh.
So if you were to look at this on an incoming tide, what would you look for? What kind of things would you look for?
Oh, goodness. I am usually going to be fishing this at night. So my biggest focus is the water moving, A, and where are the lights on? Now, because I do fish this like fairly often, I have a tendency to already know who likes to keep their lights on, who doesn't turn their lights on. Speaking of, if anybody out there turns their lights off, like, I'm over here complaining. That's such baloney. You should never be allowed to turn your lights off. I get it, but I don't get it. The things I'm going to be looking for are points. That's like the strongest thing to me, something that has a point. The Jupiter Inlet's really cool because there's a lot of variations in depth for such a small area. You have so much packed and so much personality packed in this one inlet. You have docks, you have points, you have lights, you have bridges, you have sandbars, you have rocks, you have like there literally is like whatever you want is right here in this inlet, and I think that's really cool. Because I'm in a kayak, I have a tendency to actually stay more so inside the river versus literally right in the middle of the inlet. But how do I draw? Because
Actually, I think
it doesn't matter, I guess. But
just draw like right there.
Oh shoot!
You're fine.
I don't want to. That's exclude that arrow. Where's the little thing? Okay, there he is. So I'm gonna draw like I have a tendency to like not past here really where this little mark is. More so because I'm like once you get to here, you're really kind of gonna go swept out to sea almost if it's outgoing. If it's incoming though, obviously we don't have an issue. But the current's usually moving pretty good there, and I'm fishing docks for the most part. I like to have like light tackle and skip the dock lights and do little things like that. So I'm gonna focus on my points, which is something like here. You know, this is a point. It may not look much of a point, but it is. It's still a point. This whole area right here is a point. And that will, you know, the water is going to push differently around those corners. You might have like an eddy, or you might have all sorts of things. But because, you know, stuff like that I'm going to look for. I don't like this other point very much. Maybe you do. Do you like this point?
No, I don't like that one on that side.
I don't like this one either. You can see how the water, it gets really shallow. And I think you would think almost like, oh, there's like a big difference in change. I don't know what it is. There's not much. There's rocks over there, but there's really not much. I don't know. I really don't like that side. I don't know.
There's not a lot of structure up on this corner like she was talking about. It looks like it'd be perfect. It looks like the water washes all the bait into it.
so good.
You've got all your current, but from experience, there's just, if you go over to your boat or your kayak, you'll see there's not a lot of structure on the bottom. There's a little dock right here, the Coast Guard dock, but it's tiny and it doesn't seem to hold anything but manatees. So yeah, no, that Northwest Point, I'm not a fan of.
Manatees.
This dock and this dock.
You're not part of like the Manatee Foundation, are you?
I'm not a part of the Manatee Foundation.
That would
we
really
stay
suck.
away from those as best we can.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's one of those things. At the end of the day, you can have all the tools you need and all the things you want and all the most heaviest equipment, but if you're not on the water, you're just not going to know. And that's a prime example, I feel like, that, you know, you should focus on those points, but until you get there, you really never, ever know.
And this is an aerial of that same exact spot. These are the points, the docks that we're talking about right on that corner that seem to be pretty productive, and you can see why. The water coming in like this, it's going to bring bait fish. It's got ambush points for the different fish, the tarpon and the snook and the jacks to hang out at. So that's kind of what we're telling you to look for is water flow, places for fish to kind of, bait fish to want to go hide in and big fish to want to wait for them to hide in, and structure.
And lights.
And light. If you're fishing at
I'm
night,
usually
light.
fishing at night. I don't think I ever try to fish the Jupiter Inlet during the day. So, but still, all those things play a factor. I still want to have, I still need all of those things to fish at night. There's, but having a light on is really going to be the key factor that draws the bait, that draws the fish, so on and so forth.
So even though she fishes at night like a vampire, and I fish all day long like a normal person, we're looking for basically the same kind of thing, the same structure, the same kind of current flow, one way or the other. Just depends on which side of the dock you want to be fishing. And then, of course, she's looking for lights. I'm just looking for Bud Lights.
I feel like snook are they're very lazy fish. They like to sit in that they really love moving water. Absolutely love moving water. And if you can find that and work anything slow around structure, bait, whatever's there, you almost can't go wrong.
And she does have a better point for fishing at night because they're a lot more active at night. There's a lot less pressure on them, a lot less traffic around you, especially in this inlet, which is very heavily traveled. So there are some aspects that you want to look for towards fishing at night, but I have 2 kids and I like to sleep, so I'm wishing about night fishing is what we're doing.
I like to fish till 3 a.m. and still get up and go fishing with somebody else 2 hours later.
It's so nice to be young. All right, so we know where we want to go fish, but we want to know how. So
we want to know how. I want to know how. I want to know how you have learned how to work this thing, because
so these are not fun.
They obviously don't teach this in school.
There we go.
Yay! Rig it right, y'all.
So the right kind of rod is important. I was out fishing yesterday I was talking to her with a frog in a bass pond on a little rod that if you blow on it, it bends. I was just out messing around, and of course I caught like a 5-pound bass, hit the top, grabbed the frog, and I had no backbone to set the hook. So I watched my line run around for a while, and it spit it out, and my bass swam away. But he was nice. He bit on top and rolled, and it was beautiful. And so you want to pick the right rod when you're fishing for snook. So what are you looking for? Because you're so low profile. Does that matter at all?
This is my favorite. If anyone's ever seen me give a seminar before, I talk 95% of the time about rods because I can tell you where to go, what to do, how to do it, blah, blah, blah. But your rod is the biggest tool to your success besides being able to tie a knot. It's huge. It's absolutely the most important thing. So, if you don't have the right rod, everyone always gets complains it's windy, it's too light, this and that. Because your rods are wrong, which is causing you to have a really hard time. I'm not saying that you can't go out there and catch fish. It's just going to cause you to be less productive. And that's a big deal. Who has aimless amounts of time that they can spend on the water? I mean, I wish I did, but I do not. So what I look for, if I'm skipping dock lights, the biggest thing to me, especially since I'm in a kayak, a lot of times I'm limited to there's a fish over there, but I can't motor up, and I don't want to spook them and this and that. So having a longer rod is pretty important to me. That tends to be opposite with a lot of kayak fishermen. I don't really know why, but I've noticed that everyone has their own style. And for me, I like to have a longer rod. So I use a 7.6. It's a pretty light rod. It's like a 6 to 12. This rod in particular is not something you're going to find at any store. It's something that you really have to hunt for. It's something that I had a long time ago, and I had to hunt for it. It's going to be, it's usually a very special blank, because you need something that has backbone to battle these fish, but you also need it to have a really, really light tip so you can whip those tiny little baits underneath the docks. It's a pretty specific rod, but once you find it, your fishing game is definitely going to increase, especially with placing those baits where you need them, because snook around dock lights, I always say we get 5 casts, and that's if we make 5 good casts. If you bomb like your second cast in there, sometimes that's all you got with those fish. You have to go, keep moving, and you can circle back around and fish it again, but snook are finicky creatures, and they're not always going to let you have a second chance. So having the right rod, so a 7.6, so I can basically reach those fish from a further distance. It has a light tip, so I can whip small baits, but also has a backbone, so I can put as much pressure as I need to. I'm using 10-pound test also on like a 2500 or a 3000, depending on what, Shimano's it's really cool with Shimano, because their 2500 and their 3000 are the same size. The spools are just one's deeper than the other. So you still can have, like, if, usually guys like to have that 3000. It feels a little bit beefier with them, but it's still a small reel. And but I use the 2500 10-pound test braid, and usually a 15 to 20-pound test leader, which is playing with fire. But again, snook are kind of picky, and sometimes that light leader is all you're going to catch them on, especially if the water's clean and you have like a full moon. So you have light and clean water and all these things, and they can see there's a lot of pressure. It's something to keep in mind. So don't hesitate to dabble back and forth. If you're comfortable with 30, use 30. If you're comfortable with 15, use 15. If you're getting broken off, switch. The cool thing about fishing is that there really is no rules. That's why we have these opportunities, these seminars, and why everybody can play off of each other, because it's a sport that's constantly evolving and changing, and there's just whatever works for you is going to work, whatever you have confidence in. So around dock lights and things like that, a light rod is my preference. Now, fishing heavier coverage, maybe like a bridge, throwing some bigger jigs, maybe a 1 ounce, 2 ounce, a jig, some heavier plugs, like some 6-inch plugs, something heavier. I have bigger tackle to tackle that, and that's going to be your 5,000 size reels. I have a 10,000 sustain that I like to use, and that I really like to use more with tarpon. It's a pretty big setup. It can be a lot to throw all night, but I have a really cool 5,000 size reel with like an 8-foot rod that still has that light tip but backbone. It's like a 15 to 25. And it gives me that light tip, because I am sometimes throwing some smaller plugs, and I'm working things really slow. A lot of like, I don't work anything fast for snook. Like, I almost have to shut down and reel like this. Like, it really does make a big difference, because you're using moving water. It's not like we're fishing stagnant areas where we have to give this giant presentation. We have to like work baits really hard. You're utilizing Mother Nature to catch fish naturally, and it's one of the coolest ways to actually catch fish, I think, because you don't have to work very hard. I mean, they're hard to catch, but you don't actually have to physically do much. In a nutshell, those are my setups.
So our lessons so far today are: be an underthinker and don't work too hard. Fishing's really easy so far.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit different than Christina. I use a medium heavy rod, especially around docks, and I'm using probably 20-pound braid with a 30-pound leader on it, because I want to catch the fish. So when I hook a fish and it swims up under the dock, I want to be able to get the fish out without having to sit there for 5 hours and finesse it around and wait for it to break me off.
Which is dangerous. actually, it's bad for the fish.
You get him out, you let him play until he's tired. It's good. You're not banging him off the dock with 70-pound braid. Come on now.
Yeah.
All right, so we're rigged up. We're ready to go. This is going to be all Christina talking about artificial baits.
Yay! So I'm unleashing one of my secret weapons. I don't like to share this very much because I really truly believe it is like a kind of like a secret weapon of mine. I feel like everyone has one of those. And in this corner, this little, can I write? Do I have to click on that?
Click on that.
Okay. Oh, click on, like.
And then select the bait. Here.
Okay. So I'm gonna circle this bait here. Yeah, that guy right there. Yeah, thank you.
That's a really bad circle. Wow. Okay, anyway.
And you have children?
I do, and they draw circles.
Hopefully you're not teaching them to draw circles. That's the BioVex Space 70. It really does not look like much at all. Like, why is this such a prime bait for me? There is something very particular about the pop, what it does on the surface under mangroves. I cannot tell you. I've almost 100% stopped using any other topwater for snook under mangroves during the day. Be specific. Under mangroves during the day. The BioVex Space 70.
Do you use that color?
I do. I love that color. I use every color though. They don't care. It is that there is a specific presentation with that bait that is I have not found, and I am all about finding things. And it's easy. It's nice because it's kind of small and low profile, but it has a very pronounced like pop. And I work it very slow. Again, I don't work anything fast for snook, and it's something I can cast my light rod. I can throw it in the mangroves. It's low profile. It flies really well. Like there's a lot of pros to it, and not a lot of people are using it. So I always like, our snook down here gets so much pressure. If you can present them almost anything that's even a smidge different, I think that's in itself very exceptional. But there's always DOA shrimp. You can never go wrong with almost anything DOA for snook. And you have your first light jigs. I throw those around bridges, which are these.
I took it off, sorry.
Pen?
Either one.
This guy.
Go ahead, draw a circle for it. Nice.
Is that guy right there? It's a Florida bait. We throw those around bridges. We drag them on the bottom. We let them bounce. We don't do much with them. You can swim them. It's just a good bait to use.
Hold on, we have a question from the audience we're going to answer real quick.
What is that top water bait called? The BioVex one. It's a BioVex Space 70, and the color is like it's a bone color. It goes by numbers. I think it's like number 1, but it's just like your bone color. But I like all of them. There's a few different colors, so any of them work really well. And then you go down to your paddle tails. These paddle tails don't look very big in this photo, but they're actually pretty large. They're probably 7 to 8 inches, and they're Hoagie paddle tails. Now, Hoagie has a ton of stuff. All of it works very well. The paddle tails and their straight tails for bigger snook with their jig heads. The nice thing about those is that when you are targeting tarpon and snook in the same area with a bridge, you really just can't go wrong with something like that. It's just a big fish bait. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just what it is. Those are big fish baits.
Now, when you're fishing at night, does color have a preference to you? Do you like something whiter to show up, or? I
actually use darker colors. I have a tendency to do that. Those the like black and purples. Shrimp is different though. When I'm fishing, I tend to use lighter colors with shrimp. So I don't have much of a reason. I think that's what I have confidence in. That's just kind of what I've been doing. And the bigger snook and tarpon are probably way more pickier than the smaller snook. So going with those darker colors anywhere is probably going to be a positive, because those are what I catch bigger fish on.
All right, so those are Christina's artificial bait favorites. She likes to hook up plastic things and throw them. When it comes to when I'm fishing, this is what I want to see. I want to see a school of pilchards, and I want them to be in my live well. and it doesn't matter how I get them, if I'm cast netting them out off the beach, sabikiing them off of a barge or a reef or wherever, before I go fishing, I want about 50 times more than what's shown on your screen pilchards in a live well.
Black live wells.
So what I do when I'm fishing pilchards, and I have a fake pilchard here. It's not a pilchard. It's not even a pilchard color.
This is a sad attempt to teaching you guys something.
This came out of my garage about 25 minutes ago. So what you do with a pilchard is you hook it through the nose. Wait, where's the camera? Hook them through the nose, and then you just kind of let them drift back with the current so that the hook's hanging there, and they're just kind of swimming with the hook hanging. You want to keep the line tight on them so there's a little bit of struggle in them. You want your baits to be struggling before they get smacked by a snook. So what I look to do is look to fish down current, hold them in there nice and tight, and just let them kind of swim with the current. If nothing happens for a couple of minutes, reel them up a little bit, a few feet, until they get up under where those snook are sitting. And when the bait gets above where the snook is, they will come up and eat them every time, even if they're plastic, but especially if they're live.
I was going to say, like, basically, like, fishing live bait like this it's not much different with artificials. I'm presenting stuff very similar, using the current at the end of the day.
And I'm using Mother Nature, as we talked about earlier.
Mother Nature.
All right, so we're fishing. We know what we're doing. This is going to be the important part for people that, especially looking to fish out of kayaks. Just as important for boats, but I think especially for anybody trying to fish shorelines and docks and things like that, is how do you get positioned the correct way? You know, you don't want to be on top of the fish and all that other stuff. So we're going to let Christina talk a little bit. Are you ready to talk?
I'm rearing to go.
All right, she's ready to talk.
I'm all about talking. Setting your boat up. Well, depending on, I guess, where whatever way the current is moving, let it work with it. As kayak fishermen, we don't need to fight things. We should utilize what's happening to our advantage versus trying to fight it. I think too many people try to fight things. So don't fight it. Current's going in, going out, you face your boat in that direction and work with it. Unfortunately, my favorite thing to do is, if you can set yourself up, if you do have like a dock that's pretty prominent, something you know is holding fish, you really want to be able to, if that tide's going out, you want to be able to work your baits back towards you. And a lot of times in kayaks, we don't have that availability. Now, some of us may have like new 180 drag, yay, but not everybody has that. So you can anchor. So you could anchor yourself if you have that available, which we've done. Been doing it for years. I used to either anchor or I would turn my drive in. I would turn it backwards because I wanted to be able to put that bait in front of that fish and reel it as slow as possible and utilize the current. So this is a slow process. I tell people all the time, if you're getting into kayak fishing, there's no rush. This is your opportunity to slow down and to see what everyone else is missing. And if you see fish under a dock, anchor, or just fish it really slow. If whatever works for you, if you need to paddle into the current and fish behind you, then you do that. I mean, that's just, you use what you have to your advantage. I like to really stay off of docks as much as possible because we think there's like one shadow line. There's actually two shadow lines. You should be fishing two shadow lines almost on every dock. You have the dock that creates a shadow line, and then you have this shadow line that's actually off of the dock, which a lot of the bigger snook I have found will sit on. So you have a dock, and then you have a shadow line, and then you have this ambiance almost of what the light is, and off of that is another shadow line. It's very small. It's nothing crazy. It's something that most of us overlook because our kayak or boat is actually sitting on top of it. If you take a step back, and this is where having that really long rod really allows you to capitalize on two shadow lines. So not only are you casting under a dock and hitting the shadow line, but you're casting under a dock, hitting a shadow line, fishing the light, and then fishing another shadow line that's off of it. So really try to like stay off of things. Observe. I I think why I love this is so much is because I do so many bass tournaments, and bass tournaments are go, 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 so much casting, you're not stopping. And like this allows me to really stop. And when I pull up, I stop, I listen. You can hear snook. If you hear them, they're feeding. There's almost, you should always stop, but if you hear them feeding, you should probably give that dock a lot more attention. So pull up on a dock, whatever direction you're coming from, stop for a second and listen. And if you hear them feeding, awesome. You'll hear them pop, shrimp. And then, take a step back. You'll see them flying through the light. That's if you decide to stop. If you roll up on them, they're going to tuck back into wherever they were, which is fine. They usually don't care and want to go anywhere, but they may not feed if they're spooked. They'll sit there, but they may not feed. So that's probably my best advice, is to kind of stay off of everything and assess your situation and work it slow. It's at night. Enjoy the quiet atmosphere. Enjoy there's no other boats running around. There's no traffic, no noise. It's just a pretty awesome, relaxing atmosphere. So.
Now, you said you anchor. If you find a dock that's pretty productive, you anchor. Is that one of the things in your milk crate?
Sometimes. I don't have a tendency to anchor very much. I will anchor other people, but I like to move. A lot of people don't have the patience that I have to sit and work an area, or they're not as nimble in the kayak. So I don't actually personally anchor, but I anchor plenty of other people, and I will work around them.
And fishing from a boat, I think the number one rule that I try to get across to people is, if you think that you're just far enough away from the dock, you're probably about 20 feet too close. So back out and reposition yourself. You want to be to where you can either cast right to the dock or almost cast to the dock. And then that's the perfect distance, because you're not going to spook the fish. The fish are still going to come out that extra 2 feet to eat your pilchard, in my case.
Shrimp, in my case.
Or your BioVex Phase 70, whatever you want to throw.
Which I don't throw at night.
Oh, that's a good one. And not under docks. But they'll still come out to eat those baits. They're not going to just sit under the dock and wait for something to come 4 feet under the dock to eat. So if you think you're good enough, come back out another 20 feet. You're going to be fine. You'll be able to cast, even if you're the worst caster in the world, like some of the people I've had on my boat are. Plus, you're fishing down current. Worst comes to worst, throw your bait as far as you can and open the spool and let it swim down current a little bit. But that's the biggest thing that I wanted to get across in this part was, you can never be too far away. As long as you can almost reach the dock, you're just fine. You don't have to be casting up on people's lawns in order to be in the right spot.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is you can start off of that and work your way in, because there's fish sitting off of that. But there's also plenty of times where we catch fish way up under the dock. So just work your way in. There's no reason to cram up in there and try to catch the fish that's right on the edge of the dock, because you just missed a bunch of other fish out there. I mean, I'm behind you, going to catch them, but you missed them.
I've also found if you're too close and you're on a guide trip, somebody on your guide trip is going to cast a chair on the dock, and you're going to have to get it off the dock before they pull it in.
Yes.
So
I do offer nighttime trips for snook, but it's a pretty gnarly event.
We have another quick chat question. Doesn't biting a pilchard by hooking the pilchard in the nose does not kill it? There's a spot right in front of the nose, actually, the nostrils, I guess you could say, that's cartilage, and it's a hole that goes through. If you put your hook right through that hole, they're fine. They live for as long as it takes for a snook to bite them. I haven't had any problems. The biggest problem I've had with pilchards is them dying because they're stuck in the current and the current's hitting them too quickly. They drown,
yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, hooking them through the nose, if you hook them right through that little hole that's right in the front, you're fine. So this is my favorite part of the night, is asking Christina how, when you're in a kayak and you're fishing docks at night and there's nobody around, what do you do when you get a big fish right up to your boat? So, and this is actually a problem for both kayakers and boaters. We get a lot of tarpon, big snook, big jacks, fish like that, we're not necessarily sure how to handle right or correctly, or in this case, if there's even a way to handle it correctly. So what do you do in this case?
I just take my time. I really try to remove myself from any structure.
And you close your eyes.
And I seem to close my eyes, I guess, in a split second. Let's talk about that. Like 1 second that my eyes are closed. But I really do. I just try to, at the end of the day, it's really for safety of fish. I really, really, really hate damaging them or stressing them out because this is something that I enjoy, and if it's something that's causing disruption to what I enjoy, that really bothers me. So there's nothing you can do, but with tarpon especially, a lot of times they get next to the boat, just like in this photo, and they're one of the most dangerous fish I could ever have next to my boat. There's really no other fish that scares me more than tarpon. They're very strong. They have big personalities. They like to show it off the whole time. It takes a lot to wear them out. And if they're wore out, that means I'm wore out, and I don't want to hold on to them. Like, they're relentless. So I think the best thing I can do the best advice I can give is give yourself a lot of tools. These snook and tarpon are both very, very strong fish, and when they shake with their whole body and everything they have. And they usually can pull themselves out of you. I have like fish grips and lippers and things like that I like to use. And it's more so, it's not because like I can't hold the fish. It's more so for their safety. I can keep them in the water. I can get that hero shot. I can do whatever I need to do. I can kind of set my rod down and do some things. And I can still release them, and it didn't do any damage or harm to the fish. Tarpon, yes, are going to be very difficult to, lip or anything like that. So you kind of have to like hold them as tight as you can, but you do the best you can. I remove myself from structure and just take my time. I really, at the end of the day, I just try to take my time because somebody will get hurt, or why do I have to zoom in on my face? Like,
look at that.
Insanity.
So when you do finally get the fish to the kayak and you have them under control,
sometimes you need to loosen your drag on those big tarpon. I'm just saying, it could tip wrap and you'll lose all your stuff. It's true.
The one thing I liked about all these photos, other than the fish are generally fairly big, is that we're supporting them by their lips, so they're controlled. But we're also holding them under their body, holding the girth of their body, keeping their weight supported. We're not just holding them out by the lip, up and down. There's a lot of studies that have shown that you can disconnect or break vertebra of bigger fish when you hold them just by the lip, especially if they're thrashing around a little bit. There's some dispute as to that, but I've had one FWC biologist tell me that if there's any kind of evidence at all that shows some sort of damage, why would you do it? So we always, at least for me, and it looks like for you as well, we always try to hold the fish, especially the bigger ones, up, support their body weight, get the picture, and then get them back in the water as quickly as possible. At least for snook, you can hold them in the water. You can hold them by their lower lip, let them basically suck your thumb.
Yeah.
And they'll hold on to your thumb until they feel like they're aerated enough and oxygenated enough, and then they'll just let go politely, usually, and swim away. Same thing for bass, which are a lot more powerful than snook. They usually just swim away right away. But
yes, bass are like a weird creature. They're party fish.
They will fight and fight and fight. And as soon as you put them in, they take off.
Yeah.
I've put some snook back in and watched them kind of sink to the bottom, and as they try to get their bearings and their air back. So snook for sure, I try to hold, like I said, with my thumb under the water, just let it hold on until it's ready to go off on its own.
I feel like you can't even take trout out of the water. Trout almost just need to just don't even take trout out of the water. I keep having this conversation with people about trout. They're such fragile fish. You catch this trophy trout and all you want to do is like, oh my gosh, like it's once in a lifetime thing. They're not very strong.
No, and you almost feel bad catching them on treble hooks.
I do. I almost feel bad catching them, period. Like I don't even want to trout fish anymore.
All right, so this is kind of the general idea of what we're looking for. You know what to look for when you're looking for a spot. You know how you want to be rigged up. So Christina, part of what she does is in her spare time is do guide trips out of Panama. So I want to show you just a shot of Panama and have her talk just real quick about how she approaches this spot, because as you'll see, it's a little bit different than I think anywhere that we've ever fished here in America.
Panama is really cool. I think that most people, when they think of Panama, they think, or even just, Central America, South America areas, they think, you don't have to go very far. We don't have to go very far. We're supposed to right there. But in Florida, South Florida, it's I grew up that way. So what's the big deal? That's what we do here. But as in a kayak, that's a pretty freaking cool thing. We are kayak fishing in Panama, and it's not the canal or somewhere near the city. This is a 5-hour, 6-hour drive outside the city to some waters that really boats aren't even fishing. You have pangas, guys on pangas, but which know a lot. Nothing hating on that, but just it's untouched territory almost. You can really see in this photo that there's a lot of change happening. And then you can fish really close. Do we have a
No, it's just
maybe?
no.
Oh. But here now you can. It's on the
highlighter.
Perfect. I'm on highlighter. I'm gonna highlight this. So this area, we actually you'd think oh, this is a great spot, where all of this change is happening. That's really cool, but we actually don't even need to go that far because Panama has so much structure around their on land. You can really fish really close and hit a lot of this. Panama has a lot of underwater structure as far as rocks, and it's almost like mountains and valleys and all these crazy things, and they have 20-foot tidal changes. So when the tide does change, you go from fishing an underwater rock to fishing next to a cliff. It's very remarkable. It's very different. Nothing like I've ever fished before, but at the same time, fishing is fishing. I'm just fishing structure. These fish don't know that at home, we only have a small tidal change, and here they don't know that. That's what they're used to. So you can really capitalize on things super shallow. It makes it easy from the kayak. There's a lot of structure for rooster fish, grouper, snapper. The cool thing is too is that I think we forget about these temperature changes, and the wind and anything kind of reflects on that. So one of the cool things is that we can catch marlin and sailfish in pretty shallow water given any day, depending on what the weather looks like. There's really not much to it. We do a lot of tuna trips to the humps and things like that, but for kayak fishing, it's very remarkable what we can kind of capitalize on in some small locations.
Now, I've fished, and somebody asked the question, what coast of Panama? This is the Panamanian coast. Coiba Island is just to the west of this around the corner, so it's not that far away from Coiba. But when I was in Panama, we fished a lot of these river mouths right here and here, and we're able to catch black snook down there. They're called black snook, but it's their local snook. And those fish are a lot bigger than our fish. Down there, a 40-pound snook is a regular, everyday occurrence for people. And they're used to just catching 40-pound snook and thinking nothing of it. So it's a whole different area. It's a lot of fun. And as she mentioned, there's a lot of different kind of fish to be caught down there. Rooster fish, which are my favorite.
Yes. We're going to transplant those to Florida.
If rooster fish show up in the Indian River Lagoon, we didn't do it, just so you know. So yeah, it's a whole different area, but it's the same. Again, this is Central America. It's the same kind of techniques. You're looking for outflows for the rivers like that. You're looking for points here, Puerto Blanca, current flow, anything like that. So it's the exact same thing whether you're fishing the Jupiter Inlet or Puerto Blanca, Panama.
Yeah, I don't do anything different. I really don't. I fish eddies. I fish moving water. I fish structure. I fish shallow. I fish deep. I fish birds. I've heard in Panama, that you don't fish birds in Panama because there's birds everywhere. Blah, 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 blah. I think that comes.
A lie.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's a silly little thing I keep hearing, but you can see, you can take a look when you're in a kayak. I feel like you already have to assess your situation. You can't just start running down birds. Look at the birds. If you see dolphins, there could be tuna there. Dolphins are following the tuna, but you want to look for different splashes regardless, because there sometimes could just be dolphins. But it's the same thing. I'm not really doing anything different at all. Throwing a lot of top water, throwing a lot of plugs, throwing a lot of vertical jigs, fishing live bait, fishing structure, moving. I mean, there's really, like you said, those river mouths are great. There's big jacks, big snook. The rooster fish are in that shallow. Rooster fish are like, I don't think they're even actually technically in the jack family, but they are very much like a jack. They still react the same. They still fight the same. They still hunt the same. They still put themselves in those same situations. I've watched rooster fish chase mullet, chase them like on the surface, and that's something I've seen jack do. So there's very similar fish. There's no reason to overthink it. I think that's the cool part about visiting Panama. It kind of reminds you to take a step back. And Los Buzos is a very special place. It's a fishing lodge. This is not a place you go and bring your family and hang out and do activities. This is a place you go to do some serious fishing, with people like myself, Robert Field, and just have a really good time. 5 days of fishing. You get to see Panama. You get to experience the rawness of really some untouched territory. We bring in all this fancy equipment, and you're humbled very fast. So it's a good time. It's a very good time.
All right, we're towards the end. I saw somebody, Jeff Cook, just raised his hand. Jeff Cook, do you have a question? You can type it into the chat or into the Q&A part if you want. The last thing we have to do before we leave for the night, I wish you guys well, is pick out 2 people one for the Night Eyes headlamp. And we're going to let Christina pick that one because it's her headlamp. Just pick one out of there.
Okay. Who's wishing that it's them? Me. Thank you guys for coming. Okay. Christopher Hayes.
All right, Christopher Hayes. I've got your email. I will get in touch with you, and we'll figure out how to get this to you. The next one, it's for this Navionics hat that's upside down, or all the names would fall out. And the winner of this is Kimberly Thomas.
Yay!
And again,
I know what that is.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Congratulations, Kimberly. Yay! Maybe we won't have to ship it to you.
Well, we have to ship it to her, but yeah.
Okay. Which lodge? The lodge in Panama was called Los Buzos. Losbuzos.
It's on my website. If anybody is looking for any information, we are booking trips pretty fast, and the prime time is going to be June and July. So if it's something that you are seriously interested in, and I promise you, it's like the cheapest excursion for the most epic adventure you could possibly go on. You get everything is included. I don't, and you get to hang out with people like me and have a good time and go fishing. I don't really know what could be better, but you can visit my website, and all the dates, all the information, everything is on there. It's pretty easy to find, so check it out.
All right, you guys, thank you very much. Just the chat.
Oh, do we need?
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions at all, feel free to send emails to either one of those, and we will do what we can to answer them. Thanks again. As soon as I can figure out how to go. And have a great night.